because I don't want to be involved in any kind of intrigue.
This is an international rumor now.
Yes, it's international rumor now because we're on 107.5 FM in the United Kingdom. So you've now made it across the pond, sir.
Well, that guy that knocked the hat off of that beefeater outside of Nottingham Palace a couple years back, he wasn't wearing one of my T-shirts either.
Well, go ahead and let us know how we.
A band that I was in the '90s, definitely one of the fans of that band was chasing Rami Fayed and Princess Diana to that tunnel. They were there. I will confirm that. They were there.
Will
they were
confirm
one of the
that.
paparazzi.
That's right.
Where can we find these T-shirts?
Yes, yes.
Hey, that's where everything is.
That's awesome. So, go ahead and give us a brief introduction on yourself now that we've dispelled rumors and started a few more.
Okay, well, I have a band called The Andretti. It's a project that involves me and a bunch of studio musicians.
Yes.
And I put out an album a couple months back, and I'm just trying to promote it. Well, you had played it for some of your viewers previously.
Yes. We had you on the Sunday show. This is the first time that we're having you on the on International Live. So I wanted to make sure that we got the deets, as the kids like to say there. So Dan, go ahead, my friend. I'll let you jump in there.
Quick question. Where did the name Andretti come from?
It just sounded like, phonetically, it sounded cool. There's no like interesting story behind it. It just sounded cool. Just like Led Zeppelin sounded cool. I'm sure they weren't fans of primitive aviation or anything.
Well, I was wondering if you're motorsport fans. I thought Mario Andretti is the big motorsport guy from the States.
Well, there's a cultural connection there. I'm Italian, and some of the songs are somewhat Italian themed. There's a lot of influence of like Italian movie soundtracks and Italian the record. So I'd previously been in a band called Father Divine. I was in another band called Narcotronique. The name of the band, it's just something that you have to attach a name to a project. If I called it Farrar plus a bunch of old studio musicians, it wouldn't sound nearly as interesting.
No, Andretti sounds very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, actually did sell a few records in France. We were there's a magazine in France called New Noise, which I think is kind of like the French equivalent to like Mojo. And we got a pretty good review there, and sold a couple of copies over there. Mr. Bungle was on the cover of that magazine, and our music kind of gets compared a little bit to Mr. Bungle's music, so it was pretty fortuitous that they were doing like this cover story on the newest Mr. Bungle record, which is more like thrash metal. And I guess the most recent Andretti record is more akin to some of Mr. Bungle's earlier work, meaning that it encompasses styles from very like divergent avenues of music, and there's a lot of ambitious orchestrations, and it's not blues rock. It's more like orchestrated, sophisticated avant alternative music. So it's along the lines of like John Zorn and Bungle and stuff like that. Henry Mancini, Ennio Morricone is a big influence. I see you got two distressors back there in the studio you're in, or is that a green screen?
This is a green screen.
Yeah. Typical Nashville studio.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to afford this studio. Yeah. There's about £500,000 worth of stuff in the back here.
You looked over in virtual reality. If you looked over your left shoulder, it looks like there are at least two Empirical Labs distressors behind you.
Good Lord, you're good.
Yeah, good spot.
Actually, I know the guy who builds those. He's sort of a friend of a friend. They're
awesome.
made in my home state of New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey! It always comes back to New Jersey somehow with me.
Whereabouts are you, Joe?
Now I live outside of Philadelphia. I grew up in New Jersey. I guess you could say like my musical or my just general upbringing. if you could sum it up, if you were going to pitch a movie, it would be like a cross between The Sopranos and Eddie and the Cruisers and Catcher in the Rye. That was kind of how I came up.
Wow.
Someone bought me that book. I never read it.
In the 90s, I played all the mafia-controlled nightclubs down the Jersey Shore, and
oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so that's
you've got stories. You'd do really well over in the UK. You come over here?
I haven't. I know that there's an American. Well, I think he's British, but I think his father was an American serviceman, a guy named Ray Gelato that used to play at a swing revival dance club in New York City called Swing 46. He's a British guy of Italian American background, and he does sort of a Louis Prima impersonation, and he tells me that the British kind of dig on the Italian American folklore quite a bit.
Love it, mate. We love it. We love all that Italian American mobster stuff. You know, we really do. We're passionate about that sort of stuff. And the Italian American sort of, so, you know, the whole Godfather stuff as well. It's so romantic. It's so brilliant. We love it.
Yeah, it's like Shakespeare with nicer clothes and
yeah.
Shakespeare with nicer clothes. Well, we are going to do this. We are going to play one of your tracks here.
Sure.
The Man Who Never Was. Tell us about this.
This is one of the more I'd say radio friendly tracks on the record. And
yes.
It's a little bit more accessible. I recorded it in mono, much the way Phil Spector recorded his stuff, and it has a really large ensemble. There's French horns and flutes and clarinets, trombone, trumpet, woodwinds, and I was just trying to do my version of what a wall of sound recording would be in the year 2020, essentially.
Awesome. Well, we are going to go to
the first word, so you don't have to worry about violating any of those strict British, BBC.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Somebody
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. We are going to go to it, and it is International Live, coast to coast, nation to nation, as they say. I'm going to get in trouble for that one. I'm definitely going to get in trouble for that one. The Man Who Never Was.
After you die, the man who never was, and he hides the scars that lay claim to the times that he has tried. The man who never was, and all so tragic when came in their heart.
Wow. Sounds like a James Bond movie. We go back to International Live. We'll see what they're talking about. I always love
like
this music. And Joe, that just sounds like your that song that we just played sounds like the beginning of a James Bond movie. Good Lord.
Yeah, there's a lot of James Bond-esque stuff on the record. That's probably the one thing that ties it all together. There's a certain cinematic quality to all of it.
Yes.
And I think it comes from just the way I produced it, the way I record the instruments, and the type of instruments I used.
What are your recording methods?
Well, I don't mix in the box. In other words, so I use the computer, but only as a tape machine. I still mix through a board. I use older equipment. All my guitars are old. My amps are old. I use vintage microphones. My style of arranging is not very postmodern. You know, everything that I've learned about arranging instruments, I learned from listening to Quincy Jones records and Heaney records, and even Jackie Gleason. You know, had these audiophile quality records before before rock and roll broke. You know, Jackie Gleason had an orchestra and had probably one of the best trumpet players of all time. A guy named God is leaving me right now. Bobby Hackett. So I don't know. I guess I'm an old soul when it comes to how I present the music, and I use real equipment. I don't use virtual instruments. If there's a Fender Rhodes on the record, it's a real Fender Rhodes. It's not, you know, something that's out of a computer. Everything is real.
That is tremendous. That is tremendous. Well, you have been a treat today, my friend. Thank you for doing this. We I had you on the Sunday show about 6 months ago, and I just was enthralled by you. And so when the opportunity was able to get you on here with Dan, I had to take it. And I appreciate you doing music or letting us know that the music that you wanted us to play was radio friendly for our UK audience. So thank you for that. We really appreciate that.
They don't have the pirate ships, like those pirate radio stations. I saw a movie about how during the psychedelic era, guys would take boats and put transmitters on them and play Jefferson Airplane and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that because the BBC had such a control over what was being heard. I mean, I guess this is the equivalent. The internet now is like the equivalent of like the pirate radio station. Play what you want, or
we're on Real Radio. We're on Real Radio over here.
Radio.
107.5 Leicester.
Well, this is the first for me. It's my first time on real British radio. So
there we go.
Hello to all my British friends. And if we're not friends yet, maybe we will be someday. You know, the people of Britain, what they should avoid, they don't want to have an American football team. American football is for knuckleheads, and the British are much more classy and cultural people. They can stay away from football. Football is stupid. Soccer is a much more gentlemanly game, even though the fans are a bunch of maniacs. But, it makes me sad to see that the British people would want to get into American football. It's bad enough that American football is here. I would hate to see that also be exported to the rest of the world, like all the other horrible American pop culture, the Bachelor and all this other crap that comes out of America.
Yes.
That stuff is creating all around the globe, but American football, I wish it would go away here, honestly. The playoffs are on right now, and I'm talking to you guys.
See, there you go.
Well, let's leave American football in America, and we'll get Joe Ferreira over to the UK instead.
Yes, yes. Let's get Joe to the UK. That's where it needs to be.
There are a lot of immigrants from Scotland and from Portugal, so soccer, as we call it here, is actually quite popular in New Jersey.
Oh, good.
That's great. Well, Joe, as we wrap up here with you, how do we find your music, social media, all that?
Well, on the Facebook, it's just /theandretti. I have a record for sale, like I was mentioning, either digitally or on custom 3-color vinyl on Bandcamp.
Wow.
It's just Bandcamp, I guess /theandretti. And if you're a fan of John Zorn, if you're a fan of Mr. Bungle, if you're a fan of like any of Mike Patton's projects, if you're a fan of, eclectic, multi-genre music, it's definitely worth putting in your collection. And I ship internationally, so if you're in Britain, you want a copy, it might take a month or so to get there.
But it'll get
It was
there.
really nice talking to you guys, and I really appreciate the opportunity to chat.
Yes.
Stay in touch, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Stay in touch with us,
World,
brother.
isn't it? Take care, guys.
Thank you, sir. Have yourself a wonderful day. There he goes, Joe Ferreira, the Andretti.